Firstly, mate, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to speak
Pleasure.
to you.
Pleasure, Nick.
Um, so, talk to me about what Black History Month means to you on a personal level.
I suppose on a personal level, it's an opportunity to hear our side of the story, um, words from our own mouths, and to inform people of the history of Black people, particularly I think about it, the Windrush generation, the mass immigration coming to this country.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just having a look actually prior to us having a conversation today. Your journey to this country is quite an interesting one. Grenada, Trinidad, and then to the UK. So, just tell me about that part of your life and how much you remember about the journey over.
Oh, it was a big adventure. I mean, see, I was born in Grenada. My family were really Trinidadians, but when my mum was having me, she was Grenadian. She went back to Grenada. So my elder sister and brother, born in Trinidad, moved from Grenada when I was 6, went to Trinidad, and then my mum did several jobs. She was a single mum as such at a time, and she felt there was something better for us out there. She took a job on a ship, came to England, met my uncle and aunt, my real father's brother, and she thought there was something better for us in England. And so she sold it to my brother and myself as a real adventure. We'd heard about England, streets are paved with gold and all that sort of rubbish. And sold it as a real adventure and promised that she would join my brother and myself 2 years after with my sister. So she sent my brother and myself first, and we arrived in the UK in April '62. First impressions was it was flaming cold. Um, but we were looking forward to seeing snow. We'd never seen snow. And as I say, we were very excited. The thought of being away from my mum and my sister was almost pushed to the background a little bit because we knew she was going to come in 2 years and this was going to be a real adventure. I was with my brother, my elder brother, is 4 years older than me. Stayed with my uncle and aunt. They've got 2 kids. And it was interesting. It was an interesting 2 years, but it was a great 2 years for me personally.
Yeah, I'm guessing you learned a lot in that time as well, and the kind of reality versus the expectation of coming to the UK was probably very, very different. But just talk to me about this sporting journey then. How did you end up playing football?
Well, it's because I went to a Catholic school, junior school. The lad I fell in with, who became a good friend, was a lad called Dennis Sheridan, and he was a football player. And all the lads I seemed to fall in with were the football players. And it was a big, we called it the Daisy Field near where I lived in Tilbury. And I just wanted to join in. In order for me to feel part of it, I decided I need to be part of the team. And I therefore asked to have a trial with the school team. Didn't have any boots. I think I played in plimsolls in actual fact. And as a result of that, after my first little trial game, the teacher was a geography teacher, but he was a jack of all trades, Mr. Fitzgerald, looked at me and said, "Batson, where do you come from?" And I went, "Well, told him my story, Grenada, Trinidad, and in the UK." And he said, "Well, that's in the West Indies, isn't it?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he went, "Well, maybe cricket's your game." And I then realized that maybe I'd need to do a little bit better the next time I had a trial. So he let me come back the following week. Must have had a little bit of talent because before I knew it, I was involved in the school team. Then I got picked up, I got asked to go for trials with Thurrock Boys. And that really was my first tentative steps into playing football, really.
Just on that, then, did you ever play cricket, or was that just kind of an off the cuff remark from the
That was really an
teacher?
off the cuff remark by him because I think that's all he knew about the Caribbean was they played cricket. I'd never seen football until I came to England.
Right.
I was promised to be taken to a game. The big game in Trinidad was between the two colleges, Western Boys and QRC, but I never got there. So my early sporting memories were they had a big savannah in Port of Spain in Trinidad, and I remember watching cricket and hockey. Big Indian community in Trinidad, and hockey was a very popular game. So those were the two sports I really kind of saw, but I have no recollection of playing any sport whatsoever, apart from running up and down the beach. That's as much as I did.
And I bet your family. I mean, what did they make of it then when you said I'm doing quite well at football here? Did they take it seriously when you told them?
Well, I was a schoolboy, so my back in those days, you had to write letters. We used to write a letter per month to my mum, And then I started to see my auntie was keeping little clippings of me playing football for the district side. And I just sent that on to my mum. She came to England. We moved to Walthamstow. I was playing for a Sunday team in Barking. But when the managers of teams locally heard I was traveling to Barking, they thought, what's this lad doing traveling from Walthamstow to Barking? So I got, I think that's my first experience of being poached when a Sunday team came and said, well, come and play for us. So I played for a team in Walthamstow. And I think there was never any, we have no background to thinking that I'd progress into professional football. So this was just a bit of fun. And I really enjoyed playing the game. I enjoyed being with my friends, not just from school. I played for a scout team, but the Sunday football was the best football I most enjoyed because it was for boys I'd never met before, all being thrown together, making a team and progressing. So it was just a really exciting time for me because I just loved the game. I don't know where it came from, but no indication at that age, 13, 14, that I would have a career in professional football.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit then, because you went on to play for the Arsenal first team, Arsenal's first black first team player, actually, after signing for the club as a teenager. So what was that like? And did you feel that responsibility and sense of achievement?
For a start, I didn't know I was the first black player. I had no idea whatsoever. It's a strange thing when you look back and reflect, because I think I was about 14 before I saw another boy on the other side who looked a bit like me. Mind he was mixed race, but
yeah,
you know, was another black player. So I signed as Arsenal spotted me at 13. I got invited to go up to Highbury twice a week after school, Mondays and Thursdays. Signed schoolboy form at 14, and then offered me apprenticeship. In those days, you could sign at 15, but I stayed in school an extra year. Signed at 16, and that's when I began to realise that I've got a chance of being a professional footballer. But I had no idea that I was the first black player, particularly playing in the first team, because I was just making my way. That wasn't uppermost in my mind. I knew I could be picked out very, very quickly because I was the only black kid as a youth team player, and then going through. So I was very conscious of being the only black lad in the team, but I've been used to that as a schoolboy going through. And it's only when I was about 14, I joined a team in London, and there was another black lad playing up front. But all of us were on professional books, so we had a hell of a team. But at 15, 16, I was going to sign. You started to hear the rumours, that whispering campaign about, oh, there's no black players. We hear the rumours about, oh, you know, they're a bit lazy, they're ill-disciplined, they got no bottle, no heart. All those sort of rumours, whisperings that I was very much aware of, but that never deterred me. I just wanted to try and make my way in the game.
Did it spur you on in any way, having those kind of stereotypes thrown at you?
I'm not sure at that age it was something that spurred me on. I think I don't know where I got it from. I think I was just quite competitive. And I used to get highly embarrassed if I heard anybody talking about me as that black kid who had a nightmare game. And I heard it once or twice on a bus. I was going back home from Highbury to Walthamstow, playing the youth team games, didn't play particularly well. I knew that. Other people who were at the game knew that. And they were talking about me on the bus, didn't know my name, but obviously could single me out because I was the only black kid on the pitch. And I think because we were all young lads as apprentices and then as young pros trying to make our way, your competitive instincts kick in and you always want to try and do better. I think I had a great grooming at Arsenal, terrific club under the leadership of Bertie Mee, who was a different type of manager. Don Howe was a great coach and all the coaching staff were really good, very supportive. And so I had a good education, not just in football, but outside of it as well, because of all the principles Arsenal instilled in you. So I think I was fortunate, and football was very kind to me, particularly those sort of formative years.
Yeah. Did you, was there a moment when you were playing where you thought, you know, I'm in a position now where I'm inspiring the next generation, or I could potentially be inspiring the next generation? Did that ever cross your mind?
No, I didn't. I think you'd have to have a really big ego to sort of think that. I was very much concentrating on my career. I I say I'd signed pro at 70 on my 17th birthday. Somewhere around that time, I signed professional. I felt very excited about hopefully trying to get in the first team. We had to go to all the first team games, unless we were playing. And once we got into reserves, then maybe there's a clash. But that excitement of seeing a packed stadium, playing at that level, competing, because don't forget, as a young pro, you're playing in the reserves maybe, and then you're competing against the first team players. And used to be maybe on a Thursday morning, you'd have the stiffs, you call it the reserves, the stiffs versus the first team. So you're always being geared up to try and get into the first team. So there's just a lot of excitement and ambition, really. That was all. I never thought about all those who were coming after me. This is about me personally and trying to make my way.
Yeah, they've got, and I guess when you're trying to make it at the top level, you can only really afford to think about yourself. But let's talk about what happened after Arsenal. Then you left Arsenal, you went on to captain Cambridge United, to the 4th Division title, actually. So tell us about your memories of your time at Cambridge United. What was that like?
Oh, it's fantastic. That's really where my career started. I mean, I'd made my debut for Arsenal something like 18, 19, made appearances about a dozen games, but I only started maybe 3 or 4 games. I mean, I just can't recall because I knew a lot of them were a substitute. And I knew I wasn't convincing enough for the management staff at Arsenal to be in the first team. I was following people like Pat Rice and Sammy Nelson, 2 fullbacks who got more caps for the Irish team than they've got for Arsenal appearances. So I knew I needed to sort of kickstart my career somewhere else. And you almost get embarrassed when you're not being selected in the first team, having been there and not making any further progress. You realise you're going backwards really in the pecking order. So my mum brought us up to be bold. So I made a bold decision to ask for a move at 20. And Cambridge United were the first. I didn't have a clue about them. Cambridge United was the first team to come in for me. And I know my confidence was a bit low. It felt knocked. So to have somebody come in and say, we want you to come and play for us was really a good booster. And I couldn't wait to be in somebody's first team. I didn't care who it was, to be quite honest. And so I sort of, for Cambridge United, they were about to be relegated from the old 3rd division into the 4th, League One and League Two. And we got relegated at the end of that season. I joined in, I think it was January. We were literally bottom of the 4th division the following season when Ron Atkinson came along in October. That was his first professional gig. He was player manager at Kettering Town. And he is the one that really transformed my career and made me sort of knuckle down and do all the right things to really sort of progress my career. He was a very young, ambitious manager himself. And those of us who wanted to try and fulfill our ambitions realized that if we hung on to him, then we got a chance of doing something special. And we did. After one season, when we struggled, he wheeled and dealed, and then before you knew it, we were storming the 4th division. It was great memories of Cambridge, and that, as I say, that helped me become a proper professional player, which I don't think I was at Arsenal.
Right, and that relationship with Ron Atkinson, actually, it continued at your next club, didn't it? You ended up at West Brom. Ron Atkinson convinced you to join West Brom, right?
He didn't take me a lot of convincing. I just I always felt, as a lot of players will, you're playing in the lower divisions, you're looking at what goes on up in the higher division, you're thinking, yeah, I think I could cope with that. So I always wanted to have another crack at playing in the top flight. But we'd won the 4th, we were storming the 3rd division as well. We were going very, very well in the 3rd division. Group of young, ambitious players, good team spirit. And he gets poached by West Brom, and I think within a few weeks he came in and got me. And not that we were great pals at the time or anything like that. I mean, we had professional respect for each other, but he obviously thought I could do a job for him at West Brom, and that's why he signed me. And I'm grateful to be given the chance, because I couldn't see anybody else at the time, because I saw other players going and getting moves. And I'm thinking, I wonder if anybody would be interested in me. And he was the one.
What was it like then? Because you said earlier on, you very rarely saw players that looked like you, black players. You singled out one mixed race guy, but then you've gone to West Brom and there's 2 other black players playing for the team, and that made 3 of you, which now it sounds strange to say, because obviously teams are so multicultural now, but at the time it must have felt like, wow, there's 2 other black guys here.
Well, I knew of Laurie Cunningham because he was down the road to me at Leighton Orient. I'd seen Laurie play when he was about 14, 15. And in my naivety, I said, I think this lad's got a chance, to have a career, because he was absolute dynamite watching him play at that age. I'd seen Cyril on the television, didn't know anything about Cyril. I mean, he was new to it. Seen him on the television dragging 3 players on his back and still managing to get through and get a toe poke goal in. And I thought, wow, this lad looks something fantastic, because he just appeared from nowhere. He came from Hayes. But when I signed, I mean, there was a lot of excitement around the team at the time, because it was a young emergent team. Well, is it an emergent team with a mixture of young and experienced players playing a lot of exciting football? But I do remember thinking this is going to be quite special, meeting up with 2 other black players who hopefully I was going to get in the team. And it was something I was looking forward to. And they were very easy to get to know. I didn't know Laurie at all, or Cyril. They were very easy to get to know, made me feel at home, as did all the team. So it was a very exciting time for me. But I had to convince Ron that I was worthy of getting a spot. It wasn't guaranteed.
Do you think it's that period where you 3 played together? Do you think that was a little bit of a turning point, I guess, in that, the rather ignorant view of, we don't want X amount of black players because they're lazy, or, they don't work as hard? Do you think that was a turning point? You 3 helped change that?
I do. I don't forget the time Viv Anderson got into the England team. You had people like Clyde Best at West Ham. He had a difficult time there. There's another lad at roughly my age called Eddie Coker, who was in and out, made a couple of appearances, but it was very difficult to really get that run at the top flight, it would appear. And even when I joined West Brom, you were still hearing these whispers about black players and their attitude and their abilities and stuff. You couldn't quite believe it. When you talk about Admiral Bottle, a lot of us were defenders. There was Cess Pod at Bradford and Joe Cook. I can name a load of them.
Yeah.
I think a seminal moment was when Viv Anderson got selected into an England team, first full international. And I remember doing an interview with Frank Boff at the time, and he was making a big thing about, first black player, this and the other. And I said, look, he happens to be the best player for that position. Why do you need to labor the point that he's black? He happens to be the best player. So I think that the emergence then in the mid to late 70s really did have an impact to what we see now. It's no big deal now. I mean, I'd love for us to get away from the moniker of a black player. I always say nobody refers to Pele. You refer to Pele as a black player. He was a Brazilian. Eusebio was a Portuguese. They didn't refer to him as black players. So, I think we just want to be accepted as players.
Yeah, and we see it in other sports actually as well, don't we? The likes of, say, Lewis Hamilton. He's the best Formula One driver because it's such a white dominated sport. Lewis Hamilton's always.
Well. That helps.
Yeah. I mean, that does. But I couldn't sit here and say if they stuck me in the Mercedes, I'd be able to win all those races tomorrow. So you do have to have some talent. But I agree. It's one of those things that hopefully we can start getting away from that, because great players are great players irrespective of race or where they're from.
We understand the underrepresentation, and you need to keep highlighting it, but I think very soon we'll get away from that, having to use that expression.
Yeah, and we saw in the England team in the summer how well the lads seem to get on as well. All the lads from all the different clubs, different races, different backgrounds. It's really, really good to see. But just on you then, let's talk about a couple of proud moments, I guess. Not that we haven't already mentioned a few, but you were appointed MBE in 2001. You got the OBE in 2015 for services to sport. That must have been great.
Total surprise. I'm never to this day know who nominated me, but yeah, I think it's quite embarrassing really at times, because you're thinking, well, what have I done to deserve that sort of recognition? Because I've just tried to do my bit. I played football. I got involved with the Players Association. You do realise that there's a certain responsibility. I mean, that's how my mum brought me up at Arsenal. Bertie had a saying, remember where you are, who you are, and who you represent. So I've always felt that whatever I do, I'm representing my community, my heritage. But I think there's a lot. I've been fortunate. I've met really good people during my my career, from the time I came to England, I've been surrounded by really good people who give me good advice, who've been supportive. And I think possibly that sort of recognition is a culmination of all that I've learned and hopefully managed to put into practice.
And do you keep them in a safe place? I hope so.
I have them. I know where they are. I went through a period where, because I'd moved around a little bit, and my house is in Spain, I was in the UK, and in transition, I just couldn't find them at one stage, putting them in different boxes. And my daughter said to me, "You've got to put them somewhere safe, Dad." So I now know where they are. Yes.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's lovely sitting down and chatting to you, and to hear your story. It's inspiring. I'm hoping it will inspire, people from different races to think that just because of their background and where they're from, they can't, grab a football and give it a go.
I think that's the beauty of sport, really. I mean, we talk about football. I think sport is a great form of, or a industry which allows you to express yourself, and nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can say you haven't got the other. We're out there, you're performing, and people can come to their own judgments. But I think as we go along and we look at the current England team, and I think it's great credit to the way Gareth Southgate and his management staff have been able to get everybody together, and they look so committed and so together as a team. It is fantastic. It's no surprise that black players have done so well, because they're talented, and selection has always been a matter of choice. But on a meritocracy, they've done fantastically well, and they're there on merit. So I think sport is a great vehicle for you to progress and to then use, as the current players are. Look at Raheem Sterling and Marcus Rashford and people like Jordan Henderson. They're using their profiles and their platforms to do a lot of good and to send positive messages. So I think it's a great sport. Sport is great in general, and I've been very fortunate, and I'm forever grateful.